Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. All praise due to the Lord of the worlds. A'udhu billah shaitan rajim. May God protect us from the cursed one and unnecessary ignorance. Rabbi Firli, my Lord, forgive me for all the sins I am conscious and unconscious of. Ihdina sirat al-mustaqim. May God guide us to the direct path. Okay. Hello, everyone. I wanted to give a short lecture on an idea that I have tried to take people's attention to, and it is fascinating for me in regards to how reality is happening and to try to comprehend why it's happening and realizing our methods of comprehension are limited. But still, there is an awareness to certain aspects of reality that perhaps now we cannot completely explain. Pretty much, have you noticed that you can still see while your eyes are closed? This is the idea we're looking at today. And it is very profound and mysterious because light doesn't enter our eyes, yet we still see. And in many lectures previously and even recent, I've tried to discuss the relationship man has with his own reality and what lies beyond his reality. Now, keep in mind, I'm 1 in 8 billion human beings. You're listening to someone who acknowledges that there's a system admin to this world. The system admin is outside of the world, it is beyond, cannot be limited to anything in the world. But what we find in the world is the simulation, is a simulated life. And I see it as if there is a system out at imagine we're inside this video game, okay, or imagine we're inside this system. God is outside of the system, aware of everything in the system. In the system, there are moderators, and there's also users. And I'm speaking to you as a user, okay? And what Islam says is that don't go to the moderators, because there is a hierarchy of power, and there will always be the notion of a more powerful form. But the point is to, as a simulated entity inside a simulated testing zone, what are you being tested on as a simulated entity? And at the same time, um, what do you notice in this simulation? That could be different from something that has a simulated nature. So, because I don't have the mind, like the inner lives of the inner eyes of 8 billion human beings, I can just share mine. And the way I treat it is that I'm someone who speaks about advanced civilizations often, and for me, I am behaving now as if, like, Jordan Peterson. They asked him, do you believe in God? He said, I act as if God exists. I believe in God, right? But for me, belief in God is not an action; it's a reality. And at the same time, I act as if we're in an advanced civilization right now. You don't know. Every day I wake up and some part of my psyche is extremely bored with this existence. And that's even considering how much of it I don't know. But the idea is that I've kind of become bored with an artificial infinity, and I'm trying to wonder what else is there. Now I'm going to explain what I mean by this, because when you look at the human being, you may think it's just one thing, right? But when you look at it closely, kind of like when you zoom in and then you zoom out, you notice details that you couldn't notice before. And in this current state of mind, and I consider myself, a simple human being, in this state of mind, there's details about our experience that have not been collectively acknowledged as a species. They have been. There have been many scholars. You cannot avoid being something and you kind of notice things. But I'm saying that right now we're living in post transnationalism, sorry, transnational era. What that means is that when you look at human behaviorology, you look at the significance of their value arising from their specific location, rather than it's as if, rather than noticing we're all the human species, it's there's an issue with nationalistic identity. Do you know what this means? It's kind of like I'm saying that it's like I'm saying we are extracting our honor. So if you ask most people, where's your honor, they have a sort of patriotism. Okay, but for me, I don't understand how come there's an honor for the land we're in, but there isn't an honor for the design of the species we all are. Do you understand? We're all in, right? But anyways, so how I would begin this is, I have opened up my notepad here. You can look at the screen. Pretty much, my approach is this. Okay, my approach is that first we look at the sentence. Have you noticed you can see your thoughts behind your eyes? Is it showing on the screen? Yeah, it's showing. Now, what does this sentence imply? Because I've looked at this situation often. Pretty much every day I'm alive, I notice. So I will start it and say, let's ask a question here. For me, when I see problems, the way to attack the problem is to ask questions and try to figure out what other context, the situation can have meaning in. Okay, so pretty much in the same way we look at an object from different angles to figure out how it can move, we look at a subject, but how does the subject move? It moves in accordance to the context, how the context of it changes. So when Einstein, for example, says you cannot solve a problem with, you know, the same state of consciousness that created it, what he's saying is that whatever situation you're seeing in life, you need to find an awareness and to find a different angle of looking at it from a different context. That means you need to change the context, and the problem's meaning and implication changes. Sometimes, if the context is closer to your reality, it's explainable. But if it's not, then man has to acknowledge what he can't see out of everything he can. So where I'm going with this is I want to bring the attention of the viewers to this idea that what happens when we wake up in the morning. So the approach is, let us look at how the human experience is happening, human experience of existence is happening. So, in regards to how we wake up, again, I do contextualize reality in a systems metaphor, and think of it this way: this system can be a sort of game. And so every day we wake up in the same way, like a person logs into their Instagram, Facebook, email, I find that we log into human consciousness. Okay, and when you log into something, you are not that. You have a position. It's as if your relationship with that reality is a verb. But anyways, so personally, which is the point of this episode, me sharing, giving my feedback to the human species, pretty much whether I wake up in the morning or any moment, okay, I notice that the moment I am awake, I am conscious of my awareness of the moment. So it's as if, like, if I'm semi asleep, like there's been times where I've kind of been super sleepy and somebody's woken up and told me to do something, and like, what was that character from that show Demon Slayer, Zenitsu? Like, I've subconsciously kind of acted, I wasn't conscious. Or when I'm like super tired and I speak, right? It's as if, like, even though I am speaking, um, how do I say it? Even though I am speaking behind my eyes in my inner realm, I'm somewhere else. Okay, my attention. So I do believe that attention is something that is not just starting from your eyes. Your attention is actually seated as an awareness to the moment. So it's like there is an awareness, right? So I would say it this way. Now, just to go on a tangent here to explain it, we have the traditional view. This is the most basic thing, right? This was like, most people's views, before it got even more complicated, right? But traditionally, and when I say traditionally, guys, this is like, how do I say it? See, okay, I wanted to get into a personal story and a core memory when I was young, but anyways, whatever. I'll just go into it. Traditional view equals like, what is the human equals, they had the notion of soul plus mind plus body. Now, the era we're living in, after Friedrich Nietzsche said God is dead and man killed him, what he meant was that man attempted at some point in history to put away the idea that there is an ideal above him that he needs to align to, and he made himself the ideal. Now, to a religious person, if they heard what Friedrich Nietzsche was saying, it would be equivalent to, in some sense, man started treating himself as the higher power. Okay. But, anyways, we have this notion soul, mind, body. Now, we're going to start from the body. Okay. So, what is the body? Or let me say it differently, actually. Why am I starting from the body? I explain awareness. So when we wake up in the beginning of the day, okay, so keep in mind, again, I'm going to write the equation: human equals soul, or let me say it differently: soul equals awareness to mental to mind and body. Okay, so there's an awareness here. And this awareness is very crucial to acknowledge when it comes to wondering about how are we actually seeing things behind our eyes. Okay, so first I'm saying there's an awareness to mind and body. First thing that happens when you wake up, you become aware you're in your bed. Okay, you become aware that you're aware of the moment, even if your eyes might be closed, or that you might just open your eyes for one moment and then close them again, but the light of the room tells you even what time it is. So what it is that when we wake up, it's like another, again, it's like the awareness has come back to its to this, it has logged in, and when it logs in, the saved data is there, right? So if you're, for example, playing a multiplayer online game, you're building a character, you end up customizing that character, and then whenever you log out, the achievements, the experience of the character remains. There's a checkpoint, and then you, in some sense, log out and then log in again, and you start from the same checkpoint, right? So similarly, when we wake up in the morning, there is an awareness, and this awareness aligns itself in some sense to its previous meaning. And a biological explanation of this is that your brain is creating neural patterns. Okay, so it's like, imagine inside your brain there's lightning storm going on, but now the lightning storm is like I don't know, how do I say it, like the veins of the lightning are like different. Do you know what I mean? In accordance to the experiences you have. What I mean is that if I wake up every day, right, and I have the same view, it's like lightning striking the same place, right? And in other words, the neural networks, the neural, the neural patterns. I forget the term. Anyways, so we come to this. So just keep looking at the screen. So soul is awareness to mind and body. Now the next question is, what is mind? And then what is body? The body is very easy to explain. Okay, the body is a physical self, and that's as far as the body. That means, this might sound bizarre, but if we were just physical, we shouldn't notice anything more than ourselves. This is a view I have. Okay, I feel that there's something deeper going on, and I feel that humanity, as much as I love my species, I cannot assume that it's correct in all actions. So the body is a physical self. Okay, now just to make it easy, I'll say it. It's a physical self in a physical world. Okay, so you have physical self plus physical world. Okay, now this is where it gets interesting. As a Muslim, the view on this is that the soul, when is being born, enters, like engages, becomes like overlays. No, I mean, not overlay, but let's say overlays itself on the mind, and that's where nafs begins, identity begins. Okay, but what is the mind? Okay, and what is even the fascination of the mind? For a Muslim, the mind is a very deep question. Let me tell you why. Because after this life, for a Muslim, it's like after you die, you it doesn't mean your mind dies. Like after your body dies, it doesn't mean your mind dies, right? So just keep that in mind. It's, I don't want to say even the mind, it's like okay, the mind is very difficult because the mind isn't an object. Okay, but the mind we associate, so it's kind of like this. Forget all ideologies and theories, just look at the situation right now. I'm aware of my physical body. Okay, right now I'm looking at my computer screen. Now I'm going to close my eyes. Now my eyes are closed, and I'm going to say, imagine the viewers are like, yo, Mr. Within, imagine an apple. Now my eyes are closed, and I can see an apple. Right now I'm visualizing an apple, and this apple is not in me, it is outside of me. So what I'm trying to say is that it doesn't make sense for us to treat ourselves just as the biological entity, because our access to perception surpasses just what our sensory perception is. Do you understand what I mean? What I'm trying to say is that it's very difficult to say that we're a physical entity when the human being is being influenced by imagery behind its eyes that is not physical. So something non-physical influences the physical, and that's why we don't say the mind. And there, like, we have a word called mind. People noticed. Okay, so it's kind of like, think of it this way: people traditionally think it's three layers. Okay, like three concentric circles. Imagine there's the soul, and then a circle inside the soul, the mind, and a circle inside the mind, the body. Okay, and right now scientists are like, are we consciousness, are we physical? Oh, we don't know. You know what I mean? So they're at that point of realizing that, like, okay, where is the physical experience contexted? It's contexted in our, in how do I say it? So the mind, just for the sake of explanation, I'm gonna say, or let me say it this way: the mind is, I'll change this to body is an objective self in an objective world. Now, I don't believe this is just the mind, but the mind, for now, just to be able to speak about it, is, we can say it's a subjective self inside a subjective world. Now, what now we think the mind, like, I'll give you an example. Um, if I ask you who you are, okay, now what's funny is language makes this funny. Because if I ask you who you are, and imagine you're like, you know, um, I'll give you, let me, how do I say it? Let's give you a name. Let's say I ask you who you are, and you're like, I'm Richard or something. Do you know what I mean? Right? And then the question is, and then if I say, and then imagine Richard saying, oh man, do you know, I don't know what's going on with my mind. So the concept is acting as if it still has a mind. So you're saying your physical body has a mind where the ego idea of you is, but that ego idea of you is still acting like it has a mind. So the answer is that it's like, rather than it's like three concentric circles, it's like one circle, and inside it there's two circles, like a Venn diagram. Okay? If the viewers are following what I'm saying, if it's making sense to you, give a shout out in the chat section. You're acknowledging it. It would be nice. Anyways, to keep going. So soul, mind, body, awareness, subject, object. Okay. Now, when I say subjective self, subjective world, up to the mind and body, up to this point, okay, it's dualistic. It's so important to consider this. The mind and body, if you were like an advanced technology, it would be like as if, like, these are dualistic programs. The body is an objective self in an objective world. There's dualism there. The mind is a subjective self in a subjective world. That means, but the mind is very different, because I don't like to use this term, but I think it's accurate. The mind is shape shifting, but your body can't shape shift, or it changes its shape very gradually, right? But the mind can instantly shift its shape. So even though I'm saying, see, it's not that the mind is the subjective self in the subjective world. The mind is the space where the subjective self and subjective world are being considered. And this might surprise you, but your mind is not limited to the same individualism that your body is. So what that means is that I'm pretty much saying there's an awareness. Imagine at the core, underneath everything, there's an awareness holding everything, and then there's a body. And as this body moves, and it has come to this ability of being able to compare moments. So to be honest, I think the development of memory it has, how do I say it? Memory is a very, very strange thing. Let me tell you why. Because even though I'm explaining body, mind, and soul, I want to say to you that these are spaces. How do I say it? So Think of it this way. If I say, if I look at you, right? Or how do I say it? It's like right now, I am aware I am a body. But am I just the body? No. Okay? I'm trying to say, like, awareness is like space. It's like you right now think you're an idea in space. Man, I'm sorry, I'm confusing you guys. Let me organize this. Right now I have a body. If somebody asks me whose body is this, I'll be like, it's mine. If they ask you, what do you mean mine? Like, what do you mean mine? I'll be like, mine means this character in the story I am right now and all that I have lived. Now, it's kind of like an idea of me is acting like it's the owner of the body. You understand? The subject is acting like it owns the object. You say my body, right? Who's my? Your name, your personality, whatever your ego looks like, right? So it's like a subject is act is we are using a subject to identify with our physical self. Let me give you an example. For example, you look at in front of me, I'm looking at a tree, right? But why is this a tree? It's because it's actually not a tree, it's just an object, it's just matter, but it's that a subject has been linked to it. So anytime we see that object, it is tree. Now, your identity, okay, do you understand? Your identity has is being linked to an idea that's changing. That's the difference. You're linking your body to a changing idea, but when we look at a tree, we're like, it's a tree. That idea has been linked with that object. Okay, now the question is, how is your subjective life changing? Now, something I forgot to mention here is that this is the core in like Mr. Withinian thought, like how I've explained it, is that in front of your eyes, this is the outer realms. Behind your eyes is the inner realms, which means your outer life, which means your inner life. So right now, people can act, you can act and constantly tell me, like, somebody could come and say the most heartbreaking story to me, and I'll be like, no way, man, you've been through a lot. But some part of me knows that the full content of how much a being is aware behind their eyes never actually completely is expressed. What that means is when people communicate, or even me communicating right now to you, and whatever perception you have of like who's speaking, I am not the body, because the body, I am aware of the body outside of the body. I am not a thought, because I am aware. I can, in the same way I have noticed my outer life change, my outer self, physical self change, and also the outer physical world change. In the same way, I've noticed ideas come and go. So, right now, when I'm speaking to you, if I were to tell you the texture, if I was to somehow describe to you what it feels, what my mind feels like, or how I experience my mind, it's like initially everything is the awareness. That awareness is like fixed. So what that means is everything in my life has changed except the awareness to change. Okay? So something from the beginning of my life up to now has been aware. Do you understand? It's like a higher ideal. It has been aware that my body has been changing, and it has also been aware that my thoughts change. Now, when I'm trying to, now that I'm trying to explain to you what my mind is, you might see, I have often said in these lectures of mine that I'm a visual thinker. What that means is language has a cinematic experience for me. But nobody has ever asked me, where are you seeing your mind? Which is an incredible question. And the answer is, if I, for example, talk about an advanced civilization, or if you tell me to visualize an apple, first of all, it feels like that imagery when I close my eyes and I can still see is happening in a different room. It feels like a different dimension. But what it is it's in front of me. So if I tell you right now, visualize an apple, like close your eyes and visualize an apple floating in the air in front of you, you know, sorry, don't visualize an I'm messed up. I don't want to say, I want to say your visualizations are in front of you, but they're not in front of you. They're in front of your, in front of your awareness. You understand? So I'm saying that there's something deeper than my body and my mind and my subjective life, that is aware of both of them. And whenever my subjects in life fail, it comes back to that awareness. That means if I'm saying, like, imagine somebody comes and tells you you're nothing, and you believe them. Okay, somebody says, man, you're nothing, and you're like, yeah, I am nothing. But the question is, that awareness, you revert back to the awareness. And when you're young, before you're an idea, you do have awareness to reality. So I think that the actual life is an awareness to life, which kind of makes the test, it does explain somehow that the test in the simulation is our perception itself. But guys, there's an awareness. Okay, this awareness is not in form, but it's there. According to Muslims, you know you can be anyone who and try to go figure out the soul and be as spiritual as you want. The soul is defined for Muslims as the amr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which means the command of the system admin outside of reality. At the same time, it is a secret. So that is aware of the object and subject of changing is intentionally mysterious. That means at some point, there's a restricted, I don't want to say there's like restricted access, but it's like the point of awareness is not just the awareness, it's what the awareness does with what it's aware, right? But what it's doing with what is aware has to do with, in some sense, how the mind coordinates meaning and the context for the body to move in. What I'm pretty much saying is that the human being is an advanced technology. It has layers. um our physical biological existence is like one layer, one sort of life we're living. But our ideological life, our psychological life, psyche now goes to the soul too, goes to that awareness. But I'm saying that your ideological life, like, you could be completely living a different ideological life than how you look like. You could, who is like a kind person, but your ideology is on reality. You know what I mean? So there is an we need to be able to distinguish that human beings are not just like one person. It's like it has actions in front of its eyes, it does, but the motivation of those actions in front of its eyes is coming based on the value proposition behind its eyes, which is another way of saying your mind is playing a game before your body plays the game. Okay. Now, the question for most mystical traditions has been, who's playing the game, right? But I'm telling you, it once you notice that awareness, you cannot, because it's one sided. I don't know how to explain to you. It's like a candle in a room. Because the candle is being light, it cannot be the darkness. Do you know what I'm saying? So I'm saying there is the seat of awareness, the soul is not dualistic, but it is for God, in God's view, dualistic, because God created it separate to itself. Do you know? That means I don't believe my soul is God, but I do believe that souls are advanced, very advanced creations. That means if you could imagine the most advanced being, creating the most advanced being, like, strangely, you might feel like you're it, right? That means we could have been conditioned to completely be devaluing something that we are and have been this whole time. Now, I'm not going to get into the implication of why, and this trio of noticing your body changing, and then noticing how your thoughts change, and then noticing your body and mind change at the same time, right? That awareness is very, very crucial, and the species is not there yet, because I could have come and tried to usher in the advanced civilization by saying, yo guys, you're not even human beings, you're all just consciousness without an edge. Do you know what I mean? But it's not the time now. Sometimes you may understand things beyond the era you're living in, but it doesn't mean you should not live in your era. Okay, so for me, I did, before I was truly Muslim and acknowledging, before it was real to me that this world had a, allowing my own experience to dictate value. But that was because I hadn't noticed that there's limitations to myself. You see, a part of you is a limited entity, but at the same time, you have limitless vibes. You have a limitless feeling. Do you know why? Because energy is designed to express, and scientifically, how do they explain energy? It's potential energy, folks, until you move and it's kinetic, yo. Do you know? So what I what I'm saying here is what I'm saying here is that awareness is the potential of reality. The soul is the commanded potential of you. Okay, it's very different when you realize there's a system admin beyond this world. And I am telling you, if you treat yourself like God, you will destroy yourself. Be very careful. Be very careful going into the new age community. Be very careful just entering yoga and meditation. I'm not saying they're wrong, but I'm saying they're not right either. And so what I mean by that is that they take the human consciousness to non-duality. Pretty much, if you were to see a yogi in the Himalayas, that dude is not identifying as a mind, okay, and is not identifying as a body. That being is being the pure awareness of the presence of the whole system, being considered as one intelligence. But the difference is that this is a simulation. That means the yogi thinks the simulation is God. It's wrong. Do you know? The simulation is not God, okay? God is beyond the simulation. Now, does this mean God is an individual behind beyond this world? It's kind of saying that God is a singularity beyond reality that is attracting everything that it generated. So, do you know what that means? It's kind of like you create something. I'll give you the best example. Like this to me, I think is one of the coolest ways I've metaphorized it. Even though God cannot be humanized, I'm just trying to share the geometry of the thought patterns here. Okay, so what the idea is like, imagine I'm this next level genius inventor, okay, and I make these four next level androids, okay, like these four androids: a mother android, a father android, a son android, and a daughter android. And then I go buy like this house, and I put these androids in there, and I close the windows in the sense that it's just like walls. There is no windows suggesting there's a world outside of there. Okay, or the windows are like fake or something, you know. And then I have surveillance cameras everywhere in the house in ways they can't know, the androids can't know. And at the same time, I have surveillance footage from the eyes of these androids. Now, this is the fascinating part. Now I suddenly press the start button. What that means is, me and, like, let's say my advanced team or something, we see these androids in this house, and they wake up with the programs already there. That means all four androids are sitting at the dinner table, and then they suddenly all activate and turn on, right? Becoming conscious of reality and knowing that they have a program already before their consciousness to their program. They're acting in accordance to a program. Excuse me. So, sorry guys, I had to drink some water there. Pretty much what I'm saying is that we press start, and these four androids wake up, and the mother android goes to the kitchen. Let's say gets this artificial roast beef out of the oven, brings it on the table. The android father is reading a newspaper. Imagine like old school nuclear family, right? and and The question is, me and the team are looking at these four androids, wondering when will they notice this isn't all of life? When will they notice they're in a simulation? When will they notice their blind spots? When will they notice that they have been created at all? Do you know what I mean? So it would that would be a very fascinating example, right? Now imagine, check this out. Imagine the whole simulation is locked. So me, as the inventor of these androids, I've locked the doors. Okay. Now I'm waiting to see, and I suddenly see, imagine the son or daughter android suddenly noticing things are off. The daughter android comes to the mother and says, "Hey, mother, why are we in this house? Why are we like this?" And the mother says, "Because this is how we've been living all this whole time." Do you know what I mean? Even time is simulated for them, right? We simulate time for them, program it in them as if they've been living so long, right? And so, anyways, imagine suddenly I see one of the androids starts behaving as if, like, this isn't reality. And they start noticing that, okay, the situation doesn't define truth. The situation is just a situation. What is truth? And that mystery hits them, okay? So if I see the androids suddenly like staring at the wall, or one android starts punching the wall, or suddenly the android realizes there's sophisticated tech and the android starts talking. Imagine one of the androids starts like praying and says, "Hey, whatever inventor that created us, you know, guide me, show me the way out." As if demonstrating that it has reached an awareness beyond the program of its simulated life. Okay, that's when I'd be like, okay, open the door. That android has noticed beyond its limitation. It has noticed that reality's value is on how you're programmed, but the potential of what it can. And the biggest task of the human species really is to protect meaning and be able to discriminate between truth and false, because if we can, simulations will devour us while we're in a simulation. Do you know that everybody is an Oscar level actor? And the only reason they don't know it, the reason they're doing performance of acting, is because they don't know they're acting. They think it's real. They're method acting. So I'm pretty much saying your soul is method acting your mind to move your body. Method acting as your mind to move your body. Okay, but you need to be able to discriminate between your mind and body. And I have seen people in this world that are, how do I say it? I've seen beastly nature and I've seen angelic nature, and the beastly nature is the one that doesn't want to be responsible for their limitation. That's the thing. Do you understand? Like, you don't see a lion looking at a gazelle and then they both go and have like an civilized conversation, right? It's like, "Hey, listen, man, I need to eat something," and then the gazelle's like, "Buddy, I got a family, I got kids," you know what? We don't see that because they cannot discriminate, because they are beasts in the sense that only their program is true. And when I see people like that, some part of my being is revolted. Okay, but people grow and change, and they can learn to discriminate, and they can learn to notice that the values of this life is, it's not just that you're here alone to so that your mind is the only truth. It's that you're here in an activity, in a collaborative effort with others, which means that the task of being a human is to quickly climb out of your inner realm, your programming, be able to discriminate between your inner realms and outer realms. And you will have mental illness until you can on some level discriminate and notice that you have never been actually your thoughts. Okay, and you are not just your body. Okay, and but there are some people who can't pass this threshold, and it could be biological brain issue, you know. And that's some things you just have to accept, that's what they are. And anyways, what I'm trying to say is that the demonstration of the emotional maturity of the species is the ability of every human being to notice that their thoughts, their emotions, and whatever they are aware of is one mode, is a modality of reality. Okay, and they need to reach a point where they become fascinated by how others are being, because it's very lonely, to be a to in some sense, how can I tell you, um, you have to wonder what boxes are in your head, on your head, and you have to even reach and notice the boxes on other people's heads, right? But most people are just caught their whole lifetime wondering, yo, man, is this box over my head reality, or is there something else? And I realized that something I've recently, not just recently, I've kind of intuitively known, but recently it's become consciously clear for me that a person has to accept the standard of being. That means you, at some point, you got to contextualize reality, and you choose the quality of that. Okay, and to me, you know right now we have human beings on this planet identifying as just a body. There's some who identify just as mind, and they're like, yo, what do you mean? And the person's like, yo, man, how do I know, how am I aware that I'm a body? It's because the mind is in the room first, right? So right now we're in this hilarious era of human history where some people are like, no, man, it's like the chicken and the egg. It's like the matter was in the room, the body was in the room first, and the mind. And some people are like, no, without the mind being in the room, there is no room for the body to be in at all. So it's as if it's pretty much the contextualization game that people are fighting over. What is the context to the experience of life? Okay, and if the context is abstract, so pretty much it's hilarious. It's pretty much, some people are acting like nonfiction beings. Some people are acting like fiction beings, fictitious beings. But but in reality, the awareness to life is not bound to form, and this is why it's a secret. Okay, it's a secret because I think to truly be aware of the soul, you're not an entity. Command. So right now in this simulation, you experience yourself as an entity, entitled to your body, entitled to your ideas, entitled to your unique views on life. But when you realize there's something more than that, and this is, to me, I don't know, some people think knowledge is about accumulation. For me, it has always been understanding. Without understanding, there is knowledge was, it came from one ear, it went into one ear and went out the next. Now, I think that it's super cool to be aware that there is an um It's like if I ask, is my body more aware of reality or my mind? The answer will be the mind, because the mind is aware of reality to the degree that it can modify it. Okay? In the same way that I say God is a system admin of the world, okay? And there's moderators, for example, shaitan or angels or whatnot, right? Whatever, right? For me, Hindus are worshiping moderators inside the simulation, you know? But because God is not created, a created being, that's the only thing that makes sense to me, you know? So I'm saying the same relationship of a system admin outside of the world, moderators inside the world, and then users in the world. The same. It's also a similar relationship on an individual. So that's like a collective fractalization of the model, and the individual fractal of it would be in the same as if like I mean, I believe the system admin is truly beyond this world and beyond us. But if you were to apply the metaphor to an individual, it would be like your seat of awareness is like how you're a system admin. Your mind, which is based in the world, is the moderator, and the body is the user. So it's like the body is using the mind, but the mind is administrating the whole system. Excuse me, the system admin is the soul is the awareness to how the mind is moderating the body. In the same way, God is aware how shaitan is deceiving man. But there's a reason it's called a test, because there's an excitement to it, because it's a game of showing it's like simulated beings trying to show their original worth. And imagine that android, like kid in that example I said, imagine like the android son just sits down, and says, why am I just constantly sitting at this dinner table? Or just wonders and goes to the other androids and the mother android, father android, and the daughter android, and goes and tells them, imagine the son android goes and tells them, guys, this isn't real, it's looping. And all the mother android and the father android, it's like, no, that is life, it's looping, nature is life, you know. And that kid would in some sense have a choice to be like, should I accept the artificial infinite loop, or should I consider the original power to the realm? It doesn't mean it's finite, but it's not artificial, you see. For me, the matters of body, mind, and soul, pretty much, if they were like, you have a nanosecond, you have like a second to explain, like to say one sentence, that like all like I would pretty much say it's a simulation, and you need to notice the original, and the original gets you out. In the same way that those androids could not leave that house that I had bought, in that example, hypothetical example, right? Unless I allowed. So we are at the mercy of a system admin beyond the box we're in, that is aware of the box, is maintaining the box, but is also testing the quality of its creation. That's what it means, really. Do you understand why that means? Why is God testing man? You why God is testing man. God is testing Satan. God knows what he's created. God is all knowing. Okay? Do you understand? God is all knowing, but Satan is trying to prove to God that your creation in a simulation forgets the original. Your original creation, the human, right? The soul, right? The soul of the human and the human itself, right? Is it in a simulation, it forgets you, Almighty. Right? That's what it is. And then I thought God has no doubts. Okay, God doesn't need to doubt itself and be like, yo, I doubt my creation. God, in some sense, knows. That means God, this might sound strange, and excuse me, I in no way, shape, or form, I'm trying to say I understand God's will, and I can even formulate God as an idea in my mind. Okay, but I'm trying to say that it is for the sake of man to return to the original, and it is to give a lesson, it is to educate the fallen one. That means God is teaching a lesson, okay, to a moderator and using human beings as part of that protocol. But for the human being, we are not part of the shaitan's test, okay? we are being tested on, believe it or not, your originality. You've heard like artists and creative people be like, yo man, be original, be authentic. Have you ever wondered what that means? How can you be authentic if everything was given? Your body was not made by you. Do you understand? This world was not made by you. The ideas that come to your mind and awareness in regards to knowledge was not made by you. Do you understand? But what is made by you is your decision. This is why in the Holy Quran it says man is being tested to see his deeds. So in some sense, the system admin knows the greatness of man. Why else would it tell all creation to bow to it after man said all the divine names? Ismullah, I believe it's called. Which, and the names of God are not just names, they are divine attributes of manifestation. So when God created man, put him in front of everything in creation and told everything in creation to bow to it, okay, it meant that this was, how do I say it, it was like an advanced, it's as if God created something so advanced that all creation acknowledge it except one. And now whenever a person rejects something, is it because of them or is it because of others? That means I don't want to comment. I mean, I can't in no way comment on the psychology of shaitan when he chose not to bow to God, okay? In the sense that his choice was his own reflection. Do you understand what I mean? That means it was that it's like, how do I say it? There was something incomplete in that being that when he saw the complete, he felt it was still incomplete. And the originals, the original Adam and Eve were in some sense, they listened to a simulated entity. They forgot the original was in the room first and the ultimate authority. And so they suffered the consequence. But just because man sins doesn't mean, how do I say it? It's like existence knows that it's God's command. It's like, you've probably heard me say in other talks, I was Muslim before I was Muslim. Every particle in reality is Muslim. And let me explain this. I'm not trying to be blasphemous. I'm saying that everything in existence praises the original. All simulated phenomena are aware that they are simulated, but not consciously. It's like we essentially know we are not the ultimate. We know, it's obvious. But it is man's relationship with that higher ideal that aligns him. Because to be a human being, they've made you think that you can just live life alone. Okay? That mean, well, excuse me, you can just live life as just your perception, but you at some point you will realize you need a hierarchy. which means you need a bottom value and you need a top value. Okay, there's a peak and a trough value. Okay, and what that means is, for example, I'll tell you, if like imagine me and someone, I'm in public, what is keeping all of us civilized? Why aren't we all just like killing each other like savages back in the day? Do you know? Or even if you go back in history, you begin to see that all nations were slavers. Okay, and why aren't we like enslaving each other now? Because there is a higher ideal, the law of society. And in some sense, it is that ideal, right, that in some sense is giving us an ability to be like, okay, behavior in this system is like this. Okay. Now, if you make yourself the higher ideal, you're technically confusing yourself. So I'm saying to a traditional Muslim, if you think you are just everything, it's like you're worshiping yourself. Do you understand what happened? This is the era we're in now. We went from object worship to subject worship. And then they came and said there's something beyond the objects and subjects that is only worthy of worship. Nothing in the simulation is worthy of worship. But then the counter attack of the simulation to that was like, yo, the prophet came and woke up everybody that objects and subjects are not, the only focus of worship. Do you know? Do you know? It's like, don't be an object worshiper, subject worshiper. And then I think Shaitan's counterattack was like, yo, I'm gonna make these people worship themselves, and they are an object and subject at the same time. So we're living at that era where we're worshiping an object and subject at the same time as ourselves. To be honest, the only part of you that can notice something beyond the subject is that awareness. That means that part of your intelligence that notices you're not a thought, or notices two thoughts are different from one another, is not a thought. It is not a subject. And it's a cool paradigm we're in. And so far, this is my analysis, but reality is deeper than human perception. It's kind of realizing that your mind is creating a film, overlaying it on reality to give this. So think of it this way: the physical world can be seen as a noun and a verb, but let's choose to see it as a physical verb. So the world is a physical verb. Okay, but the awareness, how do I say, I need a quick breather, guys. I'll be back. Okay. Ya Allah. So, to keep going, uh, so I said in front of your eyes, outer realms, outer life, behind your eyes, inner realms, inner life. The awareness to the inner life and outer life is in the same moment of awareness. That moment of awareness, you can treat it as the soul, but the soul is the secret of God, and also it's God's command. What this means is that it's probably that if we treat it like servers, it's like my body is in a physical server, in a public physical server. My mind is in a private, non-physical server. Excuse me. No, yeah, non-tangible. Like it still has form. So, again, I'll say it again. My body is in a public physical server. My mind, sorry, is in my body is in a public objective server. My mind seems to be part of a private subjective server, my private inner realms. The outer realms are public, my inner realms seem private. And the awareness to these seems to be in a server that is neither subject or object. So it's kind of like, I mean, from one angle, the object is living in the subject, and then the subject is living in awareness. Okay, so it's kind of like there's a physical server inside a mental server, inside what you call, let's say an awareness server. Do you know? But it's actually again the Venn diagram idea that the awareness to the body and mind happening is at the same time. Okay, so it means that your awareness deep down what you are from the moment you wake up is experiencing the interaction, the synchron the strangely adequate synchronization of this private and public server of your being. And as a user in this system, some people can go and connect their inner server, their private server, to a mod, and then that mod acts like their god, and most likely they're led astray. For example, in Hinduism, in the Vedantic view, um, people are like, "Yeah, Mr. Within, you said that very closely sounding to pedantic." No, no, the Vedantic view is, in some sense, um, to explain it to you, in the Vedas, they say if you work with a moderator, with like a deity, at the end of this life, that deity manages you. But in Islam, they say if you worship anything else, the biggest sin in Islam is shirk, which means to associate a partner to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That means making anything in the simulation equal to the system admin is an error. So that means if you treat the moderators like God, error. If you treat yourself like God, error. If you treat an idea in the world as in some sense God, error. Do you see what I mean? What it means is that right now experience is extracted from this simulated environment, right? But I'm saying we cannot equate the simulation with the original. Do you understand? That means you can't make a picture of me, like you cannot treat a picture of me as the living me. In the same way, we cannot treat our pictures of God, whether we reject or not, or our ideas of God, as the living thing, as the actual thing. So, anyways, guys, all of this is to go and prove, and pretty much the coolest thing. This is something that I feel like it was a discovery in the way I said it. I'm really proud of this, but it was, I pretty much, I have a atheist, aunt, very smart person. She was a CEO. She lives in Germany. She was a CEO of like this, um, for some years, the CEO of like this tech company that would create the software for all the banks in Germany. Okay. And she had a discussion with me in regards to like, hey, why are you being spiritual and all that? And why are you, and I told her, like, I don't consider I'm a physical being. And then I told her an exercise. I'm like, can you just for a moment close your eyes and imagine something? Okay. Like, imagine, I told her to imagine something. And I asked her, can you see that? Can you see what you're imagining? And her eyes were closed, and she's like, yes. And then I told her, how can you see that? There's no light in your eyes. How are you seeing something when your eyes are closed? How can you see without the sensory perception? Because it's not just memory. If it was just memories, that would change the argument, but it's something else. You can visualize stuff that's not real. So behind your eyes, you have access to abstract reality. In front of your eyes, it's not that abstract, yo. So in the outer realms, yes, it's a physical server, we're a self in a world, but behind your eyes, the mind can act like a world. Be careful. Your mind can act like a world. It can not just like act like a self. It can literally, that awareness can treat the idea of self as a self, or the idea of world as a self. So my intention with this episode was to make you aware of how cool it is that you can close your eyes and still see, and the human being cannot be a purely physical entity, simply because what is influencing it is not just physical. So if there were no thoughts, if there was no abstraction, if there was no ability to theorize, then I'd be like, granted, an object shouldn't be aware of itself as an object. The awareness to an object is the suggestion that there's something more than an object aware of itself. You know. Now, somebody could be like Mr. Within. If you're saying the object can't be aware of itself and the awareness has to be in a, let's say, superior position, um, then what do you say if like, what about the brain? Isn't the brain generating awareness? I would say the brain, it's like the keyboard and the mouse of my computer, which move the characters, are not being moved by their own. My fingers, as someone, so I'll give you an example. Imagine the simulation of life is 2D. It's like a video game character. So you're sitting at a computer playing a video game, and it's two-dimensional. You're looking at a 2D screen. The character on the 2D screen is pixelated and whatnot. But you who are moving the character are a three-dimensional being. You're a higher dimension. And you use tools outside of the screen to move the screen. So to me, if I'm saying my body's in a video game, my mind is like the mouse and keyboard that are outside of the body's dimension, moving the body. And me sitting at the computer table, typing in the keyboard and typing and clicking on the mouse is the soul moving the mind that moves the body. So if the character in the video game is like, yo, man, we're being simulated by some device, true. But if the video game character says, what's moving me though, in the same way, what is moving as us here is not limited to the body and to the mind. It's not limited to the hardware and to the software, it's being moved by an agency beyond those servers, beyond those positions. That's the mystery, because to kind of, it's like for a video game character to realize it is, let me tell you why. Because for the video game character to suddenly realize it's being moved by, like for the 2D two-dimensional video game character realizing that it's being moved by a three-dimensional entity outside of where it's simulated, okay, is like, if that character wanted to truly understand its soul, it would have to identify with something that is not itself. This is why I think, whether man likes it or not, the soul will remain a secret. Because to be the soul means that means the objective and subjective domains of reality are not just are the definers, the metrics for reality. Something is moving superior to these servers, our consciousness simulates it. So I'm saying it's even more in the same way that you close your eyes. I'll give you an example. So right now my eyes are open, I'm seeing a tree, and then I close my eyes and I imagine like a sequoia tree, and then I don't need to imagine this. I know that I am seeing that sequoia tree, because before me visualizing that sequoia tree, I was in awareness of the space. But the point of life is not, yo, man, go just think you're a consciousness and that's like the peak of spirituality. No, no, no. We're designed for an activation, a unique activity. It's too specific, folks. That's why there's something more to it than generalities. So it's too well designed, too specifically designed, too designed to maintain, to be maintained. It's too designed. And I'm not saying this in an ungrateful way. I'm saying in a way that I'm angry at culture, but fascinated by the divine, by the system admin. Anyways, thank you for listening. I hope this was an interesting episode for you. And engage the channel if your heart calls you to it. If not, don't. Um, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful. A'udhu billah shaitan rajim. May God protect us from the cursed one and unnecessary ignorance. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. All praise due to the Lord of the worlds. All the priority of all simulated beings is the original cause, is the original value, is the original power. The Lord of the worlds. All worlds are bow to their creator. It's fascinating. Rabbi Firli, my Lord, forgive me. My Lord, forgive my species for all the sins that they are conscious and unconscious of. Ihdina sirat al-mustaqim. May God guide us to the direct path. May the original system admin guide the simulated in the most advanced way back to the original. It's pretty much what it is that it's the original return. It's the return of the simulated to their original. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Thank you for listening.